Hello and welcome to episode 87 of Little Big Knits. My name is Selma. I'm coming to you from Ottawa, Canada, where I live with my family and our cat Yoda. Welcome to this late October edition of this podcast about knitting, might I add. And we are having a beautiful fall day. I've actually left the back door ajar so that there's some nice air coming in. We don't have very cold weather yet. It's quite lovely at the moment, and the leaves are changing beautifully this year. Tree in front of our house is very yellow. It is starting to lose leaves. There are lots of leaves on the steps and on the sidewalk. So fall is in full gear. The colors this year are absolutely beautiful. It feels like every year they're more beautiful. I'm not sure that that's actually the case, but I do wonder, because we had such a warm and slow progression of fall, if that has contributed to the intensity of the colors. I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure somebody does know that, but anyway, it's absolutely gorgeous here, and hello. Thank you for all the comments from last time. Those of you who've been around, welcome. If you're new to the podcast, hope you'll enjoy what you find here. So last time I asked you which sweater you thought I might want to make with a particular yarn, and many of you voted, and I'll share the results a little later and what I've actually cast on. And thank you so much for all the comments also about the footage at the end of the podcast. If you stick around to the very end, thank you. I really appreciate that. So today we're going to be talking about knitting, of course. We've got a couple of finished objects. We've got some works in progress. But then I thought I would share some patterns that I've been seeing lately that I would consider calling them romantic knits. In the fall, there's a lot about cables and squishy and warm and coziness, but I feel like I've been seeing a lot of more romantic knits lately. So I wanted to share some designs from 7 designers who have put out what I would call romantic knits, and we'll talk all about that later. I'll also share about my trip to New Mexico. I was recently there, just came back last week. I taught a workshop there, went to Santa Fe, Taos, and Ghost Ranch. Ghost Ranch is where the retreat was taking place, where I gave the workshop. Absolutely beautiful, so I'll tell you about that. Of course, there will be footage at the end all about that, so if you stick around, you'll see that. And I'll share with you the acquisitions that I either purchased or came my way in New Mexico. So that's what we've got on the roster for you today. But first, a sip of tea. And actually from this beautiful mug that happens to go very well with what I'm wearing today. This is a lovely mug that was given to me by Tori, a viewer of the podcast. Hello, Tori. And I really enjoy it, actually. It's got a lovely feel to it, lovely weight to it, lovely handle. So I've had several cups of tea out of this already, and a couple of cups of coffee as well. And in this cup this week is a tea that I got in Finland last summer called Lakritsite, which is a licorice black tea. And for the licorice lovers, I know there are people who have very strong opinions against licorice. I am not one of those people. I love licorice. It's a really lovely tea that I got in a grocery store. Nothing special, but really yummy. It's kind of an occasional tea. So yes, let's get on with the knitting, shall we? The first thing I'm going to show you is this lovely sweater. This was a test knit that I did for Knit Toronto, Claudia Quintanilla, who is the owner of the shop as well as a designer. She's prolific, makes lots of designs. And this is her most recent design. It is a lovely sweater, very feminine, with this beautiful detail of lace and cables in the front and in the back, with cables all around, and then a double cable going down the sleeve. It's a raglan construction, top down, and it just turned out beautifully. I really, really like it very much. It was a really fun knit, actually. Complicated. I wouldn't call this a beginner pattern. It had, the setup was a little bit intense, I would say, when you have a lot of different things going on. But once you got into it, it was really enjoyable. I never was able to completely memorize the lace. I did have to refer back to the pattern for the entirety of the sweater, actually. But it didn't bother me. I somehow never quite got into the rhythm of it, but I just had to glance down and then I'd be like, oh yes. But yeah, very, very lovely. There was a group of us testing it, and so it was really interesting to see all the different versions of it. I made mine in Lamina Como, which is a beautiful merino yarn. It's actually superwash. However, and it's being promoted as a yarn for children's knits. It's extremely soft. I really am wondering if I would dare put this in the washing machine. It just doesn't seem like a superwash yarn. It seems like it would felt and shrink and become this teeny weeny little sweater that you would put on a Christmas tree or something like that. It doesn't feel like superwash yarn at all. So I'm really interested. I might actually do a little swatch and throw it into the machine to see what happens. Beautiful, beautiful yarn. It feels very much like a woolen spun. It's very airy, very light, and that is what the sweater feels like as well. It's a very light and airy sweater. It's very warm, and I'm feeling that, and I can tell I'm going to have to lift the sleeves. I might even end up having to change my sweater at some point because it's still a little bit too warm to be wearing this, and I can feel the perspiration building. So yeah, but beautiful, beautiful design, beautiful, beautiful sweater. I'm looking forward to the cooler days when I'll actually feel comfortable wearing it. Because of the lace, I do feel like I need to wear a camisole underneath. Other people made theirs in a fingering mohair combination, and that might fill in the lace a little bit more. But this, I do feel like you can see the camisole quite clearly there. So yeah, it's a lovely, light yet warm sweater. Very pretty design. Very much like it. Looking forward to wearing it this winter. So that is FO number 1. And I really do think that I'm going to change my clothes because I can tell that I'm just going to be warm. I'll be back in a minute. All right, I'm back because, oh my goodness, that is warm merino. So let's get on to the next final object, or finished object, I should say, and it is a beautiful pair of socks. This is the Auni socks by Maria Costa Movara. I started these a while back and I finished the first one, and then it took me a while to start the second one. They're top down, and you start with this section of baubles up here. The rest of it is simple, but I felt like the bauble row requires attention. She is a Finnish designer, so these socks fit into the LBK Nordic Cal. And that is a knit along, crochet along using patterns or yarns by Nordic designers and dyers. So the Nordic countries, including Denmark, Finland, Norway, Sweden, Iceland, the Faroe Islands, and Åland Islands, I believe, right? That's how it goes. Really, really beautiful pair of socks. I knit these in Les Arts Textiles du Témiscouata, which was a Quebec yarn dyer. She no longer dyes yarn. And I don't think these have been in my stash that long. I was just wondering if they would also suit the Scrappy Stashy Mal, which is a make-along that we're doing using fibers, fabrics, yarns that are older than December 2020. I'll be back. The teenager's woken up. So there'll be some kitchen noise. So yes, these were a lovely, lovely pair of socks to make. Very lovely pattern. I could see myself making these again. I have to admit that the twisted rib that you do all the way around here or along the bottom, the leg of the sock in the bottom and the foot of the sock, I have to say that it really aggravated my repetitive strain syndrome. So if I were to make them again, I think I'd wait a while. But I really enjoyed them, and they're lovely, and they're on these beautiful sock blockers that are made by Patricia of Knitography. She's an American living in Norway, and she has a lovely online shop. So I'll link it down below. I don't actually know if she's still making these things. I'd have to check her web shop, but she's got yarn there and different items made from birchwood, and they are just beautiful, and I've had them for a while. They're lovely. So there you go. Those are my 2 finished objects for today. The rest of them are works in progress. So the first one is the one that you voted on, but before I tell you about that, it is also in a finished object actually, and that is this. If you've been around for a while, you know that I've been doing some stitching, and I had cut up some jean fabric that I had, and I started doing some stitching based on some doodling that I had done. I finished the stitching, and I decided not to do any on the other panel and just sew up the bag. I was making other bags. You may recall last time that I was making these scrappy fabric bags, and so because I was sewing, I just decided, that's it, I'm finished, I'm sewing this. However, I actually sewed this upside down. I meant for this gap to be here at the bottom, but whatever. When I was finished, I only realized it then, and I thought, too bad. So sad. I am just going to live with it as it is. It's perfectly fine. And I've been using it, and it's just great. And the other scrappy bags are finished and gifted. I did not take pictures of them. I completely forgot. There's only one left, and the reason that it's left is that there was a problem with it. I finished the bag and then realized that there was a gap here, and so I just hand sewed it. So it's not quite as polished looking as the other one. So I thought, you know what, I'll just keep this one. It's very orange and green on one side, and then more blue and pink on the other. And I really actually quite love this one because I have fond memories of this fish fabric that I used to make bags years ago. So yeah, so those were finished and given away. That's the 5th one. There were 4. I gave 4 away to people who were sort of helping with the retreat. So I gave one to my friend Lauren, who organized the retreat, and Laura, who was supporting her in that, Dagmar, who provided yarn for the retreat, and Jean, who came from Ireland, and was also helping us a lot at the retreat. So those went to them, and that one I'll just keep, and you'll see it at some point being used with the project. I'm going to continue making them because I really do enjoy making them, but I'm also starting to feel ready to maybe move on to some clothing. We'll see what happens. Any case, the project that I cast on is in here. I showed you last time a bunch of sweaters and a bunch of cardigans that I wanted to make using, this yarn here. This is the Erica Knight British Blue Wool. It's a 100% pure British blue face Leicester, and it is a crunchy and crisp kind of yarn. It's really lovely, and I swatched with it. I showed you the swatch, and I showed you the patterns that I was considering. Some of them were sweaters, and some of them were cardigans. I'd have to say that the Ilya was probably, by Orland Suk, was probably the most popular choice of people. Really interesting. The anchor sweater was also quite popular. And in the cardigans, people really, really liked the Granite Cardigan and the April cardigan. So I really realized that I wanted this to be a cardigan because I really need cardigans. I've got a lot of sweaters and I find the layering aspect of cardigans really great. And I have some cardigans, but I don't have that many cardigans that I really, really love to wear and want to wear all the time. So I feel like that is a goal. I feel like it was a goal last year as well, and it just never really happened. So I've cast on a cardigan, and the cardigan that I've cast on is the Granite Cardigan. I'll put a picture here so you can see what it looks like. It's a very simple top-down cardigan, but I really like all the projects in it, and it just looks like it has a nice fit. So I thought, let's go for it. So I have cast on, and here it is. I'm on the raglan increases, which is interesting because they're not all at the same rate. So there's a little bit of shaping happening to the raglan increases. I'm knitting this on 4.5 millimeter needles, which I believe is a US 7. And it's just a lovely, lovely color. So it's going to be a lovely blue cardigan. I hope that this turns into the cardigan that I go for all the time, that I just wear with a t-shirt underneath. And yeah, it's really lovely. I actually have stitch markers on here. I just wanted to show you are the lovely bicycle stitch markers that my friends Paul and Antoine brought me from Stephen and Penelope in Amsterdam. So they're all around the cardigan. And yeah, it's great. The funny thing is, I don't have a problem with purling. I know a lot of people complain about purling and they don't like purling. And I definitely prefer knitting. I think my knitting is faster. And when you make a cardigan, unless you steek it, you're going back and forth. So I'm going back and forth. And it's like, oh my goodness, I haven't done this much purling in quite a long time. So it's kind of interesting. And I'm just taking it easy. I'm just going along as I go along. I'm not trying to be quick about it. I'm just enjoying it. The yarn is lovely. It's lovely to work with. So it's great. So I'm still on the first skein of this, which is still going strong. There's 250 yards of 250 yards, is it? 240 yards in each one, but it really does seem to go a long way. It's also being knit on 4.5 millimeter needles. So that is the first work in progress that I have to show you. And of course, I wanted to show you the bag as well as tell you what I finally decided on. So there you go. Thank you for all that voting. It was really interesting to see. There were also votes for the Poetria by Sara Vest. I did not, count these in any way or anything. I was just looking at the trends. And a lot of people thought that the April cardigan by Petite Knit would be nice as well. I do think that that would be nice. I think I'd like to make that in a slightly more drapey yarn. We'll see. But anyway, that is my first work in progress. Hello there, Selma from the future. I completely forgot, even if it was in my notes, to mention that the beautiful yarn, the British Blue Wool by Erica Knight, came from a shop in Vancouver called Your Next Knit. This shop is run by Smita, and Smita has offered viewers of the podcast a discount code, Selma15. So if you use that code, if you go to her shop and use that code, you will get a discount of 15%. So go and check out her shop. I don't know if she's got any of the same color, but she does have the British Blue Wool as well as other yarns as well. And thank you so much to Smita for that. The second work in progress is in one of my bags, actually. The first one that I made when I started on this journey of scrappy bags, which would all work in the Scrappy Stashy Mal, by the way. I am making the Kimba Shawl by Amba O'Brien. and I have incorporated the second color. So this is Lohitaren Luola, which is a Finnish yarn, so also in the LBK Nordic Cal. This is yarn that Minna, my friend Minna Sorvala gave me a couple of years ago. We did a swap, and it was this beautiful turquoise color as well as this sort of deeper teal color. So they are becoming this shawl that I think I'm probably going to end up giving to my mother-in-law. She loves turquoise, and I think this would be right up her alley. So I'm on the second color, and I'll be soon striping in this dark blue. These two are both Lohitaren Luola. This is woolly knit from the UK, and I have a lot of it, and so I've just wound off some of it. This shawl comes in 2 sizes, and I've decided I'm just going to make the smaller size because I think it will be big enough, and I think my in-laws live in Uruguay, so they don't get the winters we get. They don't need quite the warmth, something smallish around the neck I think will be useful. So yeah, so this will be moving into the next yarn, and I've just made this ball, and hopefully this is sufficient to finish the shawl. If not, I'll go back to the large skein and let's see what happens. So this is coming along really nicely. It's also a pattern where I can't, I always feel like I have to look at the next row, but then once I get the row going, it's fine, and the rows are really long. So striping is really fun. The next striping from the teal to the dark blue will be much more subtle, and that is coming up in the next couple of rows. So yeah, really enjoying this. This is hopefully going to be finished in the next couple of weeks. My husband will be going to Uruguay at the end of November, so it needs to be finished for then, so that it can get blocked and ready to go. So that is work in progress number 2. Work in progress number 3 is one that I had hoped that I would have finished for today. However, I've needed, when I was on my trip in New Mexico, I did not knit nearly as much as I thought I would. We were on the go a lot, which you'll hear about later. We were on the go a lot. I just didn't have that much time. And then at the retreat, I was teaching, and we were hiking and doing lots of things. So I didn't knit that much. I thought I would have this Sara Vest finished. Also, there was some modification what was required with this pattern, because for my size, when I split for the sleeves, it's a bottom up pattern. You knit to here, and then you knit for you split for the back and the front. You knit the back to the top, and then you come back and you do the front. The lace pattern was not symmetrical when I split, so I had to rejig things, which meant that the stitch counts were a little bit off, which meant that I kind of had to do my own thing. I also felt that when I was going up the back, that it was wider than I wanted it to be, because I wanted it to have this more kind of like feminine look that comes to the top of the shoulders. So I've had to modify this quite a lot. And when I was on the trip, I realized I didn't quite have the space and the energy to sit there quietly one evening to figure out exactly, what I was going to do here and there. So I have been working on this since I got back from the trip, and I thought I might finish it, but I haven't. Oh, and it's a mess. So I'm knitting this using leftover yarn from my bindweed, which I made last year, which I think was by Xenia Nadion. And I made it in this beautiful purple artichoke color by Knitting for Olive. And it is using the Pure Merino and the mohair, both in the same colorway. So I have yarn left over. I have more than this. And I think I'm gonna have a little bit of leftover. I thought I might be playing yarn chicken, but I don't think I will be. And in fact, I kind of wondered if I should have made the vest a little bit longer in the body. But I think I compared it to my Stockholm slipover and it was about the same. So I think it's going to be good. It's always hard when you're trying them on. But I have finished the back, and I also added some short row shaping, just a wee bit just to mimic the slant of the shoulders. And I'm just about at the top, at the part on the first front piece where I will have to do the same thing. So I've sort of done my own thing as I have continued on this sweater since I had to split for the back and the front. So not finished yet. I had hoped that I would have this finished for my trip to Spain, which is in a week. I'm leaving on November 3rd. So we'll see if I finish it this week and have it ready for the trip. I'm not too fussed if I don't. I think it's actually going to be warmer there than I thought it would be, at least in Barcelona. I think Madrid is definitely cooling down faster than Barcelona. And yeah, but I think it's going to be a lovely vest to have. So the Violeta pattern, which is also by Unit, was beautifully written. This one, I think, has a couple of details that could have been worked through a little bit more. But it's a very easy stitch pattern. And I think that I made the size L, and that's where modifications were required. I don't think it would require modifications in all of the sizes. Today is an all Selma handmade bag day. This is also a bag that I made a while ago. So that is all my knitting for today. I'm glad to have finished a couple of projects because it felt like I had a lot on the go at one point, and it wasn't really, it felt like I wasn't finishing anything. So I'm glad to have finally finished something. So next I thought I would talk to you a little bit about the romantic knits. And after that, I'll tell you about New Mexico and show you the acquisitions from there and finish off with some footage from there. So, as I said earlier, it feels like in the fall, people get into the fall colors, they get into cozy, oversized, cable knits. It's very much about the cozy and the warm. And yet somehow, over the last couple of months, as patterns are coming out and people are gearing up for fall, my eyes were being drawn to romantic knits that I was seeing along the way. I'm not prone to knitting frilly things necessarily. I would say that the sweater that I showed you earlier today is probably one of the more romantic-like knits that I've made. It's very, very feminine. But I have been noticing that designers like Sara Nordland, for example, who is a big cable designer, she is very big on cables and has lots of wonderful, wonderful designs. She came out recently with a design called the Kutar cardigan, or Kutar wrap cardigan. And I'll put a picture here of it. And this is a more delicate design. It's got that sort of that wrap look to it with lace on it. It's lofty looking. And I would say that what I'm going to characterize as a romantic sweater is something that's a little bit more delicate. A lot of them do have mohair in them, but you could do it with suri alpaca or something that's lighter and airier. They're often like just very romantic or more feminine sleeve details. They often have lace. They might have little ties. They may be closer to the body, but they may also be more balloony, but just a little more feminine in a cut. So the Kutar wrap definitely fits this, and you can see from her design that it's just a more sort of delicate and kind of something you could dress up easily with a camisole underneath and a nice skirt. It's got that romantic feeling to it. The next designer that I wanted to mention is Fable Knitwear. Now she, and Sari, by the way, is from Finland, so that fits into the LBK Nordic Cal, and so does Fable Knitwear. I would say that the majority of her knits are romantic or very feminine in the way that she styles them as well. So I'm going to bring you two patterns from her. The first one is the Oxford blouse, which you can see is this close-fitting body with very poofy sleeves, and it's a delicate knit, and the poofy sleeves give it that sort of vintage vibe as well, which could also lend to the romantic. And then there is the Mode blouse, which is lovely and has these very pretty lace detail on the sleeves. I have to say I'm quite intrigued by this one. And it has a little bit of lace here, and the way the sleeves are, you've got the lace on the sleeves as well, and there's sort of a romanticness to it, I find. Anyway, calling this romantic. The next person, who is normally, I would say, more of a shawl designer, and her shawl designs are very feminine, full of lovely details, and that's Ines Sang. And she has this top here, the Darta, which is actually from the Neons and Neutrals book. So it's not a pattern that you can buy individually, but this is a pattern that is in the Neons and Neutrals book, and it is a lovely sort of top with these ruffles in the front. And I would say that lends kind of a very feminine, sort of a little bit of a fancier, romantic look. And it's lovely. I love the idea of that. I love the idea also that it is something that you could, in a way, you could use like leftovers and create the ruffles. You could make more ruffles, less ruffles, longer ruffles, shorter ruffles, whatever strikes your fancy there. The next designer is a Ukrainian designer, Teti Lutsak. Her work is just beautiful. I also really enjoy her podcast. And she has come out with two designs lately that I find very, very feminine. And depending on how you styled them, would very much be romantic. The first one is the Biforka vest, which is this color work vest where you're doing the color work around to create this V shaping, and then you're building the rest of the body. And it is so lovely. There's, of course, something, very kind of old-fashioned about this at the same time. It looks like something that would have been embroidered on a smock before or something like that. And it is so pretty. She also just came out with another one, which is more of a peasant blouse with a little tie here, called the Podalist blouse. And this is a kind of like a peasant blouse with beautiful color work details. And I find that to be also very romantic and very feminine in how it would be worn. Next is a designer whose name is Masha Ziablikova. And I have to say, she's not somebody that I had known about, but I came across her sweaters and I was really drawn to them, especially this one, which is called the Gal sweater. And it is a sort of lacy mohair sweater with a tie at the waist. Very, very feminine sweater. And I just think it's absolutely lovely. I'm intrigued by this one. I wonder how it would look on me. I'm going to consider this one a little bit. Marie-Christine Lévesque, who is a French-Canadian designer. I find she has generally very feminine knits, and these two are ones that have sort of a scalloped edging or scalloped the sort of also a little bit of ruffles on them. Two of her patterns. The first one is the Farandole cardigan, which is a lovely sort of crew neck cardigan, but it's got those sort of kind of ruffle like that. Hers are scalloped ruffles, I'm not quite sure what to call them, that are coming down on the cardigan, which render it just that much more feminine and kind of, a little bit more romantic. And the other one is a Henley that has just very subtle details on it. It's called Apéro. And as you can see on the edging, there's just a little bit of scallop just to render it that much more kind of feminine. The last one is a design by Camille K. And she is a French designer, I believe from France. And she has this lovely cardigan called the Saguaro cardigan that came out recently. I believe it's knit in 2 strands of mohair. Again, I think you could use something else as long as it had a bit of a lightness to it. And it's got a lovely slip stitch detail on it and these puffed sleeves. It's a close fitting cardigan, so it's something that you could wear closed, for example, and it's just also something that you could easily wear with a skirt out, that kind of thing. So it's interesting because I'm not necessarily prone to knitting very, fluffy and details with ruffles and things like that, but I've been really drawn to these things lately. And so, and I feel like they're sort of like quietly appearing here and there. And I thought, what are all these sweaters that I keep spotting? Is it me or is there a little trend? So I thought I'd share that with you in case this is something that might interest you as well. I find it interesting how I go through my Ravelry patterns. I get highlights because I've been favoriting Ravelry patterns for so many years that I get highlights. I don't necessarily look at the new ones coming in, but I get highlights from designers that I favorited before or whose patterns I've bought or that they're similar to other designers. And so I tend to go through those. And so these are ones that have been popping up, or they're things that I've seen by chance on Instagram and was intrigued by them and went to Ravelry to look for them. So I thought I'd just share those with you. And yeah, that was that. Let's go to New Mexico. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful New Mexico. I have to say, I bought a sticker in New Mexico. I finally found one. This is the symbol of New Mexico. I think it's called the Zia. And I just love this symbol so much. I thought it was so beautiful. And you'd see it on different things, but I really just wanted a sticker at this time. I also wanted a t-shirt, but I never found one that fit nicely that also had the logo on it. So next time, perhaps. But I went to New Mexico. I was there for 10 days. Left on the 11th of October and got to New Mexico and the retreat at Ghost Ranch, the knitting and hiking retreat hosted by Knitting New Mexico. And there is a website if you want to have a look at it. There is likely going to be a retreat next year as well that Lauren is setting up. Details to come on that, but I believe it would be in September. So a slightly hotter time of the year. It was very warm there. But the retreat only started on the following Tuesday, and I arrived Wednesday afternoon. So we actually took a few days to go to Santa Fe, and as well as to Taos, 2 beautiful, beautiful places that are just full of galleries and lovely shops and artisans and adobe architecture and just a lovely, lovely vibe. Taos is also special. You're getting a little bit more north. You're more into the nature. There is the Taos Pueblo, which is indigenous land, and it's just beautiful to visit, and you see the adobe housing and the village that they have there, and it was just really, really lovely. And there's also a beautiful gorge, so you'll see a little bit of footage of that at the end that we drove to as well. We also went to a museum, the Millicent Rogers Museum. She was a woman who I think whose son created the museum after she died. She collected a lot of art. She was also a jewelry designer, but had a lot of New Mexico jewelry. And that was a very interesting museum because you just saw a lot of artifacts from that area as well as art. And yeah, so we did those things before we went back to Albuquerque, which is where my friend lives. And our friend Jean arrived from Ireland, and then we went, and we also had a day to I was getting myself organized for the workshop, and Lauren was doing the last minute details of, the more practical details of the workshop. And then our friend Jean arrived. And then the Monday before the workshop, we went back up to Santa Fe so that Jean could see it. We went to the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum in Santa Fe, which was great. I love Georgia O'Keeffe's work and have for many, many years. I've got a couple of books of her art. And so I was really, really happy to be in Georgia O'Keeffe land, to see the museum with her art in it. It is lovely. And then from there, the next morning, we went off to Ghost Ranch, which is also Georgia O'Keeffe country. She had a house in the small town near Ghost Ranch, and also painted at Ghost Ranch. So it was just, I have to say, all stunning. And I think the footage at the end will demonstrate it. It was so, so beautiful. I really like the vibe of New Mexico. There's just, you can see that there's a lot of creativity there. There's just so much going on. I did buy myself these Spanish cross earrings that I saw in a window of a gallery, and they just kind of hit me, and I was like, I think I need to go try those on. And I put them on, and I was like, yep, these are for me. I want them. I love them. And my friend Lauren convinced me to get a clip, so I've got a cool clip. Anyway, so yeah, I would love to go back. The weather was stunning. It's dry, sunny. It's beautiful. It's inspiring. Very lovely, lovely place. Very much liked it. And I've been wanting to go there for a long time, so I feel like I've checked something off my bucket list, which is really, really nice. So in terms of acquisitions, as I showed you on the first day when I arrived that evening, we met up with Tori, who gave me this lovely mug. And I'm going to take a sip. Tori also gave me a little piece of stained glass work from the area. Both of these, the mug and this, are both by local artisans, and I just love this. So I'm really looking forward to putting this up in the window. So thank you so much for that, Tori. And it was also just really nice to meet somebody who watches the podcast. So hello, hello. And so that was that. And then that evening, we also went to a shop called Yarning. Yarning, and I'll link the shop below, is a new shop, and it is owned by Laura Long, who also was one of the people who I made a bag for, because she was supporting Lauren in the administrative details of the retreat. And Laura recently opened this shop called Yarning, and we went there, and I was not intending to buy yarn. You may recall that I said I haven't bought yarn since May, and I thought I would buy yarn if I saw something that just was kind of like exactly what I've been looking for, because I actually have a list of things that I was looking for. I was intending, I'm going to Barcelona Knits in a couple of weeks, and I was intending to buy yarn there, but I thought I won't buy anything unless I see something. And I saw something in Laura's shop. It's a new yarn called Yarn Citizen. Again, gray blue. There seems to be a gray blue theme these days. This has just a tiny bit of lilac to it as well. This is Yarn Citizen, and this is essentially an upcycled yarn. And it is, I believe, put out by the owners of Jimmy Bean Wools in the States. They went to a mill in Peru and worked with the mill there to use bits of alpaca and wool that are not being used for yarn, that are sort of the leftovers, to upcycle those into a yarn. And I just, as soon as I saw this yarn, it's first of all very reasonably priced. I was totally drawn to it. The colors are very, very nice. I was torn between this and a pink. I really liked the pink as well. There was beautiful colors. And so I got 3 of these to make a sweater. My initial intention is to make the puffed polo, by Mayu KP. If you've been around, you may recall that I cast this on already, and then I didn't continue because the color of the yarn just didn't really feel like it was me. And I had this unusual reaction of physically struggling to knit the sweater because the color was just not speaking to me. But I thought this would make a beautiful, beautiful version of it. So that's my intention for this yarn. And it is a 50% wool, 50% alpaca. This is the fingering weight version, but there is also a worsted weight version. And so I suggest you go and check it out. I think they probably have it on Jimmy Bean Wool, but Laura's Shop Yarning also has it. And yeah, so if you want to check it out, go for it. Really beautiful. I think this is going to have a lovely drape to it, and I think it's going to be really, really nice. So that was that acquisition. When we got to the knitting and hiking retreat, we got swag bags. So this is the bag with the logo on it. And from October 2023 at Ghost Ranch. We arrived on the Tuesday at lunch. Everybody had lunch together, and then we started the first session of the workshop that I created, which was on sweater modification. We talked about knowing your yarn mostly that day, about how different yarns have an impact on the look of the sweater and so forth. That was that day. And we also got these swag bags. And in the swag bag was a beautiful hand-dyed skein of yarn by Zia Wools. And she's got the symbol there as well. This is yarn by Dagmar. You may know she has a yarn dyeing business and has for a while. She dyes beautiful, bright colors, lovely colors. And she had collaborated with us to create the swag bags. And she dyed this one-of-a-kind colorway in her Sugarloaf base, which is a 100 superwash merino. And this is called Knit 1, Hike 2. And it's just beautiful. So this was in the bag, as well as a notebook from Yarning. And I love notebooks, so very happy to have that. I had collaborated with Catherine Pelletier, who is, well, if you've been here a while, you know that I bought many of her cards and even a print. I love her work. She has an online shop on Etsy as well, which makes beautiful prints. And we selected a few different ones, so everybody got one of the few. And I got a cactus one, which is very fitting. And all of her cards have yarn in them in some way. And then there was also a couple of stitch markers. So there were stitch markers that were from Yank Your Yarn on Etsy. There are some lovely, these little circular ones, and then a progress keeper. And then somebody else had also donated a whole bunch of progress keepers that were different. So mine ended up looking like this. They're from the Sophisticated Sheep. Sorry, I couldn't read it for a moment. So yeah, that was a lovely, lovely swag bag. And Dagmar also gave us all a little extra mini. So that is going to be going into one of my blankets. And I've been thinking about what to make with this. I think this is going to become probably a one skein shawl. It is 500, it has 540 yards. So I think it would make a really nice, I'm thinking about a hipster by Hochi Locatelli. I've been wanting to make that for a while. And there's definitely enough in here to do tassels as well and make that a fun shawl. So I'm thinking about doing that with this. So a lovely swag bag. And on the first day after the workshop in the evening, we went out for an evening hike on what was called the Lark Trail. So you'll see a little bit of that as well. The next day which was the Wednesday. We continued with the workshop. We talked very much about fit, about swatching, about measuring. So we measured ourselves, and that afternoon we went on a rather intense hike up to the kitchen mesa. That was quite an elevation of a hike, and I did not go to the very, very top. It got quite sort of climby at the top, and I was a little concerned that I was going to have troubles with my knee because I had surgery on my knee years ago. So I would say that I made 7/8 of it, but the footage from the top looked beautiful. But the views from where we were amazing as well, and coming down was quite slow. But it was great. It was a fabulous, fabulous hike. That night we had a lovely show and tell. And then Thursday I gave the third session. We actually hiked in the morning of Thursday, and I did a hike called the Matrimonial, which is a lovely hike along a ridge with a group of people, and just beautiful. And it was really nice to hike in the morning because it was actually quite warm in the afternoon. So the Kitchen Mesa hike had been a bit challenging that way as well. But in the morning we did this hike called the Matrimonial, sort of more gentle up and down and along this ridge, and it was just wonderful. And the highlight for me, to be honest, from that hike, in addition to the views, were two things. First, you could see that there was deposits. Were they copper? We're not 100% sure. That gave a very turquoise look. Could not capture them in with my camera, but it was really quite amazing to see the colors of the Southwest. You know, this rusty red with the pale pink and the turquoise, really beautiful. But we also saw some wild cat poop. A mountain lion, perhaps. Did not see the cat, but I have to say I was kind of excited to see that. I was like, that is definitely bigger than Yoda poop. So yeah. Then we had the last session of the workshop in the afternoon, talking very much about modifications related to changing stitch counts, and then also to short rows. And that was the final session of that. And there was lots of time in the evenings to knit and to chat, and lots of talking, lots of sharing. It's just a wonderful, wonderful feeling, a wonderful, wonderful time. I was so thrilled to give this workshop. I think it went quite well, and I really hope that I could give it again. I hope that I would very much like to give it again. It would be really great. So we'll see where it goes. And I also have an idea for another workshop actually, so I might start developing that again, or developing that one for a future one, I should say. But it was a really, truly lovely, lovely time. We stayed 3 nights. Friday morning, I did a last hike with a group of people. This was Box Canyon. It was a very gentle hike, and this was basically along a stream. So the foliage there was very different. The nature there was very different because it was more lush than in the other parts of it. Any yellow trees, the aspen and the cottonwood trees were all a beautiful golden yellow. Anywhere where there were trees, you knew there was a little bit of water. And there you might see some flowers and things like that. And it just felt so peaceful and wonderful. So truly, truly a blessing to have been at Ghost Ranch, to have met such wonderful people. We had a truly lovely time together. My heart is full with joy from just being with such a lovely group of people. And it was just a joy to also give the workshop. So I still feel the joy from that experience. It was just wonderful, and I loved it, and I hope I'll be able to go again. So yeah, it was just so wonderful. Couple of other little things that I forgot to share with you. Dagmar also gave me this fabulous little Notions pouch, which is got a New Mexico on there. So I think I'm going to be putting stuff in here very soon as a lovely, lovely reminder of this trip to New Mexico. And Jean, our friend who came from Ireland, did not come empty-handed. And I forgot to show this to you a little earlier, so I'll do it now. She brought, the other two are on the ground, on the carpet. They're not being treated poorly, I promise. But Jean brought five skeins of this stunning yarn by Woolly Mammoth. This is lovely Emma's yarn. This is a it feels so interesting. This is a 50% Jacob and 50% BFL, all from the UK and dyed in Northern Ireland by Emma with natural dyes. And it's got a bit of a tonality to it. The darkest bits are a burgundy, and then it goes into a lighter mauve. And there are 5 of them. So I am thinking about what I will make with this. I am thinking about a long cardigan because there's a lot of it. It's fingering weight, so it might be a project that would take a while. Haven't quite decided yet. But I would want something that would use it all. And there are 5 skeins of it. So I think like even just a simple garter cardigan, long with pockets, I think it could be quite lovely. So thank you so much for that, Jean, and your beautiful work, Emma. Jean also brought a notebook, and this is a notebook from Carol Feller, who is an Irish designer, and she also has a yarn company, The Stolen Stitches. And this is a notebook. And what's interesting about this notebook is that each section has different paper. So it starts with lined paper and then goes to blank paper, and then you've got squares. So yeah, it's quite another lovely notebook. So I've come away with 2 lovely notebooks. I love notebooks. There was also this stunning project bag, absolutely stunning project bag that has this on both sides. But I cannot remember who it was by, and I forgot to get the name from Jean. So I think I'll put it on the screen, and I'll put it down below as well in case you're interested in checking it out. And there was also a lovely linen pouch in here by Mr. Kite Designs, which is made out of Irish linen. Really, really beautiful. Thank you so much, Jean. And Emma very kindly sent a lovely photograph of the Irish landscape, which I was been keeping in here. And it's printed on stunning, stunning paper. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? She signed it on the back. So thank you so much for that, Emma. What a lovely memory of that beautiful area as well. So such beautiful things, such beautiful places. I really, honestly, I feel so blessed. I feel blessed. Blessed to have been in front of a classroom again, blessed to have met such beautiful people, been to such a stunning place in the world, and by the connections that we make through something as simple as knitting. Isn't that amazing? So yeah, that was a really, really wonderful trip, I have to say. And I think I've shown everything to you. I'll let you go at this point, but I will leave you with footage from New Mexico. You'll see some Santa Fe, some Taos, lots of nature, some hikes, and I hope you'll enjoy if you've stuck around this far. I will be leaving next week for Spain to visit my son. I think I've mentioned this to you before. I'm going to spend a week with him, a very good friend of mine. My friend Paul is coming with me. And we were in Spain together years and years and years ago. So he's coming, and we're meeting up with another friend of ours there. Very excited about this and to see my son. And then I'll be going off to Barcelona where I'll be meeting another friend of mine, and we'll be visiting Barcelona together for 5 days, my friend Liz, and then I'll be meeting up with a bunch of knitters and going to Barcelona Knits. So this is going to be another magical trip. I'm very much looking forward to this as well. Although I lived in Spain for 4 years, many moons ago, I never went to Barcelona. So Barcelona has been on my list of places that I really want to go for a long time. So I feel like I'm checking off some bucket list places this year, and I'm very excited about this. So what a fall I'm having. It's been absolutely beautiful. So far, 2023 has been an interesting mixed bag of intensity with, my wrist and breaking my bone there, and my mother being in the hospital, and things being like requiring a lot of support. But then with some lovely time in the summer with the family, and then these 2 beautiful trips. So I'm really, let's say that I'm just, grateful for the way this year has gone in many ways. Even with the challenges, they've been interesting. So you got to take the good with the bad sometime. And speaking of that, I hope this knitting podcast has found you well, has given you some respite from whatever is going on, because there is a lot going on. And I hope we've been able to spend a lovely time together, and I'll see you next time. Take care.
Don't be a stranger in the night. Take a chance for some romance. Don't cover your eyes. Willow trees know you better than anyone else. It's time you let your guard down. For someone like me, I'd say I'm settled and pretty calm. I don't storm in the storm. If not me, then someone like me that knows what to do and how to take care of you. But most of all, that deserves you. The sweetest red cheese I'd ever seen. You stand beside me in every dream. Angel goddess, you cover them all. Say, what can I do to get you to fall? For someone like me, I'd say I'm settled and a pretty calm. Don't storm in the storm. If not me, then someone like me that knows what to do and how to take care of you. But most of all, that deserves you. It's most of all that deserves you. It's crucial that he deserves you. That he deserves you. Go with someone like me. I'd say I'm settled and pretty calm. I don't storm in the storm, no. Not me, then someone like me that knows what to do and how to take care of you. But most of all, that deserves you.
I was old, I was young, I was sitting in the sun. I was tired of the run, I was done. Life was great, life was hard, in a way an awful card. You can't win the losing hand. But the rain stopped falling and the line on the floor was crossed, and the pain I'd been feeling washed away to return another day. I was cold, I was bold, I had fragmented my soul into pieces contradicting themselves. Perhaps it is as it is, how the world is the mess, means that every heart and soul needs to be whole. And the road signs keep changing as the road stretches out ahead, and the mood keeps on changing. All I wanna do is lie down in bed. How are you? Are you blue? I can sense a sadness in you. Don't you worry, every storm passes on.